It's 12 months to the day since Nick Clegg was elected leader of the Lib Dems. Many happy returns, Nick. Didn't make much of a noise. Thank you. Take two. We'll get it right when we do the live show. We're meeting up with your 30 ex-girlfriends down at Annabelle's after the show, so come and join me. You need to get out a bit more, because it's not been a great start for Clegg over this year. But which of our politicians had a 2008 worth celebrating? And who's glad the show's over for another year at least?
I think there was a moment when Gordon saved the world. I don't see why he shouldn't say so. And there was a time when everybody was really worried and jellyfish-like, and he walked round like a Scottish piece of granite.
I don't think Gordon Brown goes home thinking, yes, there's a recession, but I think he does go home saying, this is my moment. This is the moment I've prepared all my life for.
The bank rescue package put in place by Gordon Brown and the Treasury prevented the banking system from collapsing. It's obviously a good thing, but one shouldn't forget that Gordon Brown was Chancellor during the many years of the gestation and birth of this crisis.
He must go to bed slightly with the sweaty buttocks of a desperate gambler who's fearing that his last throw of the dice is not going to work and he's going to bankrupt himself and us.
One minute he looks like the shoo-in to be our next Prime Minister, with poll leads that we haven't seen since the days of Tony Blair. The next, the polls are closing and closing, with a mounting sense that Labour just might, after all, be able to win a fourth term.
The main dent to their image was that dreadful business of George Osborne on a yacht somewhere in the Greek waters. And we can really thank Peter Mandelson for that. But the damage done by the Deripaska affair was, I think, perhaps the most significant thing to the Tories in the last year.
I'd like him to be a little bit more stalwart, perhaps. Maybe get a bit older. Maybe that would help.
Clegg's done two things. He's told us that he had 30 girlfriends. That makes him a figure of ridicule to some, but it identifies him to the electorate. It makes him a character. Second, I think the Liberals have been closely identified with what we can call the freedom agenda. They've been very good at standing up for ancient freedoms. They and David Davis have really carried the torch on that, and I think people might remember that and be grateful for it.
Nick Clegg clearly didn't think referring to his sex life would diminish him in the way that it did. And I mean, the simple fact is, whatever he says or does now seems to be viewed through that prism.
Nick Clegg's discovered what every third-party leader has always discovered, which is there is one thing that unites the Labour and Tory benches, which is disdain for whoever the Lib Dem leader is. Particularly when that Lib Dem leader is youthful, charismatic, and shows some prospect of making a breakthrough.
So the leader's performance is down. Is Gordon Brown a better leader now than he was 12 months ago?
He's a lucky leader, and what did Napoleon say? Give me generals who are lucky. You know, the crisis has played to his strengths. His opponents within the party have gone very quiet. He has Peter Mandelson as a hostage, right, strapped to his leg. So he will go through to the next election. He won't be challenged again.
Can you explain the volatility in the opinion polls we've seen this year? I mean, at one stage the Tories had a lead of about 26 points. Now the consensus polling is that it's now down to 5 or 6, which are a government in mid-term is not a bad position to be in.
Well, the volatility, I think, is almost unprecedented, but the economic situation is clearly unprecedented, and I think one accounts for the other.
Yes, but why aren't the Tories benefiting from the economic situation?
Well, on this programme a long time ago, we said that if the economy turned down, it was quite probable that people would turn to Gordon Brown because he was...
said that.
I think I said it too, because he was the person who was trusted with the economy. What we had not, I think, predicted was that it was going to turn down quite as dramatically as it did, because for the first year, when we were just kind of talking about recession, Gordon was doing quite badly. It's only this moment when it really turns into a catastrophe that Gordon has benefited.
But are you surprised that it hasn't, given the nature of the downturn, the depth of the recession that's staring us, the banking collapse, that the Tories haven't done better?
That the Tories haven't done better? I think one of the difficulties for the Conservatives, I always felt ever since Gordon balked at having the election when we all thought he might, or almost certainly would, that actually, although that was a dreadful press for him, and up until very recently he's not really recovered from that in many ways, it's been downhill all the way, that actually the long Parliament was worst case for David Cameron, because Blair used to liken his job when he inherited it from John Smith as, or Roy Jenkins described it as, a man walking across a highly polished room holding a priceless Ming vase.
This was being leader of the opposition.
Yeah, and hoping not to drop it, before he got to the other side. In a sense, that's what Cameron had to do. And then, of course, events took this most dramatic turn.
It may be, Connie, that the dramatic events, maybe there's a natural small c conservatism that you kind of stick with the person you know.
Yeah, which is why, like, I don't know, lots of people are saying it would be a good time to get Ken Clarke out, which probably won't happen. But I think that for the Tories sort of to bring it, they need to come up with a really good strategy, and at the moment they're kind of not...
It's hard to see what the narrative is in this tough time. Would it be a good idea to bring back Ken Clarke as the Shadow Chancellor?
Well, in an entirely theoretical sense, it might be, but it's
That's a bit grudging. That was your ex-cabinet colleague. Do you know that? It might be.
Well, I say in an entirely theoretical
He
sense,
devoted
it might be.
newspaper column to it recently.
Well, I never read my newspaper columns.
No,
but it's wholly impractical. It cannot happen because
Right.
Single currency.
Right.
because
It's a superb chancellor,
because
you know.
Ken is keen on Europe, and it would not only rock
Europe's
the
not an
boat,
issue
it
at the
would-
moment.
Yes, it is.
We don't meet any of the Maastricht criteria, and aren't likely to for the next 5 years.
Listen, Ken would immediately say that the devaluation of sterling was proof that we ought to go into the euro, and then there would be mayhem.
Mr. Clegg, got anything to celebrate 12 months on?
I think two things, actually. One positive, one negative. The positive is your old friend Vince Cable.
Vince the Cable.
Yep, because...
Not yours?
Sorry?
Not yours.
Her friend.
Could you let him finish,
no,
please?
Yes,
They're
definitely
they're
my
just trying to cause me.
Definitely my
Carry on,
friend.
Charles.
And
Right, someone's going to go for you.
there is no doubt whatsoever that, he's come out of it extremely well, personally. But actually, I believe that there's a wider law for a party in our position, that when you have people like that doing well, sure, it might not lead to an immediate jump in the opinion polls, but it's all a degree of credibility in the bank for the main event come an election. That's the positive. The negative, very quickly, is that despite these titanic events going on, we haven't actually been squeezed. Now, sure, we'd all like to see a big leap into the mid-20s. We're not there yet by any means. We might have to wait for an election before we can aspire to that. We'll see. But we haven't been squeezed.
Well, we shall see. Some of the polls show that you are. Politics is a cruel business. Mr. Clegg makes one remark, kind of quoted out of context. We can't stop having fun.
Politics is such a cool business in that, especially the fact that the Lib Dems had like 3 leaders in, 18 months? Or,
But the good news is nobody can remember the one before last, so that's all right.
it doesn't matter if
Well,
they're
just
lovely
'cause
and
your
popular
memory's
in
fading.
the
I'm getting older.
George. Thank you. All right, we have got time for one more quiz question, so let's have the clue.
Chickadee